So as human beings, it's very difficult for us to experience in the realm of time anything other than the past or the future unless we're praying or meditating on the Word of God. Why? Because what we're doing is we're unplugging from the now, and then we're getting plugged into the forever. Now, in this video, you are going to learn how to become the best of the best in your arena. I'm talking about the Michael Jordan, the Kobe Bryant, the Bruce Lee, the Michael Jackson of your arena that you are in. At least you're going to learn what it takes, even if you're not willing to do it. In this video, we're going to talk about how to be the best. Like, I don't know if you study people who are the best at what they do, but I study people who are the best at what they do. I'm like, what makes this person so different? And I hate to beat the dead horse, but clearly the horse is not completely dead. So we're going to beat it a little more today. The principle of be, do, have is, in my opinion, the ultimate success principle. I've got videos that I talked about it, and I'm going to talk about it again because there are so many layers of truth in this concept of be, do, have. It's just like if you learn how to look, you will see it everywhere. And the first thing God ever said to man when he made man in Genesis chapter 1, the first thing he ever said was, be fruitful and multiply. Well, when he said multiply, the verb is not announced. It's implied. What does that mean? Like, you wouldn't say, A, be fruitful and be multiply. That doesn't make any sense. And be dominion. That doesn't make any sense. You said be fruitful and multiply. What's the implied verb? The implied verb is do. Multiply is something you do. Be fruitful. But fruitfulness is something that you be. Be fruitful. Do multiply. Do replenish the earth. Do subdue it. And then have dominion. So he said be, do, have. That's so magnificently beautiful if you understand what it means. I'm going to illustrate some of the stuff I'm talking about on my digital blackboard today. But before I do, let's just really settle into this whole idea and ask ourselves the question, have I become the person who can do the thing so I can have the stuff? Or am I one of those delusional people who desires to have something for which I've not yet done the thing that's required? Or have I been one of those people who've been attempting to do the thing that's required that I'm not yet able to do because I've not yet become the person? That's the question. So when you become the person who can do the thing, what you have will change automatically. See, we bought into this idea our whole lives. We've been told if what you're doing isn't working, try harder. Not only is that not a good idea, that's some of the worst advice that could possibly exist. Do more. Put more effort, energy, and time into what's already proven not to work. How does that make sense? It doesn't seem to make sense to me. And so I'm going to give us a different perspective because we're going to talk. We're going to do a deep dive on be, do, have, because becoming the best version of yourself is the way you can get to the point where you can do the things that serve the world the best. So you can have the best of the things you seek to have. It's like there's nothing missing here. Even when I think about the nature of the economy that God set up in Genesis chapter 1. When God made man, where did he put him? He put him in what? In a bakery, in a garden. So you mean he put it that was the economic infrastructure of the world. It was a garden. Why? Because God's ideal environment for man is a garden. It's a place where things grow. It's not like a bakery where consumption creates lack. We talk about the economic pie as if it's actually a thing. But there is no economic pie. You don't have to have less. The whole economic pie theory infers that in order for you to have more, I have to have less. In order for me to have more, you have to have less. In order for one person to have more, everybody else has to have less. So what it infers and implies is that the lack that people experience is the result of the abundance that other people experience. And the abundance that people experience is because they've created lack in the life of somebody else. That's not only inaccurate, it's actually a lie that's very well crafted, but it's the inversion of the truth. So there's no economic pie. God put man in a garden. Watch this. In a garden, consumption creates the opportunity for production. What does that mean? If I eat an apple, what do I expose? I expose the seeds. Now, does an apple only have one seed? No. So one apple has multiple seeds. Let's say it has 5 seeds, 6 seeds. So one apple, if I eat it, can grow 6 trees. So my consumption created the opportunity for production. So I don't have to be afraid to consume as long as I'm willing to produce based on the byproduct of my consumption. Is what I'm saying making a little bit of sense? Yes. Okay. But what happens when I plant the seed in the ground? The seed becomes a root system, right? God said, be fruitful and multiply. Okay. So let's start there. Fruitful. What is a fruit? Well, it tells us what a fruit is. What's a fruit? A fruit is a living organism whose seed is in itself. Oh, so the potential, because a seed is not a tree. A seed is a potential tree. So the potential to become more than it is and produce more of what it is inside the thing that it is. But I've got to plant the seed. So when God says be fruitful, what's he saying? He's saying make sure you produce on the outside based on what I put on the inside of you. And I put something special on the inside of each and every one of you because God put an aspect of his creativity inside of each of us. He didn't put all of his creativity inside of any of us, but he put an aspect of his creativity inside of each of us. My job is to make sure that what God put inside of me shows up outside of me so that they can see my good works and glorify who? My Father which is in heaven. This is so powerful if you get it right. If you begin to see life through this, do have lens, like you'll find the answers. Like most people are struggling to do what? Have more of something. And they find the struggle in the having. Yes. Can I get a witness? Amen. They find the struggle in the having, and then they learn a new thing. They see somebody do a thing that seems to cause them to have a thing. And so, since they desire to have the thing that the person who's doing the thing has, they say, I'm going to do what that person's doing. But you can't do what that person's doing because the aspect of God's creativity he put inside of them, he didn't put inside of you. You have to do something with the seen God put inside of you. Now it's easy when I look at Virgin, for instance. When I look at you, it's easy for me to see that the gift God gave you is valuable, but it's hard for me to see that the seed God gave me is valuable. Maybe that's because the only person our eyes can't see is us. Well, what if the truth was the only people our mind can't see is us? We value everybody else's gift. We value everybody else's talent. and we devalue ours in the same breath. If I could sing like so and so, if I could talk like so and so, if I could write like this person or dance like that person or sing like this person or play music like that person or paint like this person, or if I knew business like that person, then I could. Well, the reality is now you can, but you only can if you can see the treasure that you have. You do remember the story about the widow in 2 Kings chapter 4, don't you? She comes to Elisha crying, "My husband died." You're lucky. Elisha said, "What do you want me to do about it?" What kind of question is that for a preacher to ask? Preacher is supposed to say, "Oh, poor thing." He didn't say that. He said, "What do you want me to do about it?" He said, "What shall I do for thee?" He said, "Tell me, what hast thou in the house?" What's he saying? When he said, "What shall I do for thee?" he's saying, learn to expect more from yourself than you do from other people. We expect the government to fix our problem. We expect our parents. We expect our spouse. We expect our children. We expect our teachers. We expect our churches. We expect our communities. We expect someone outside ourselves to fix the problem that exists because we refuse to produce based on what God put in ourselves. I wish I had some help in here, and the reality is the answer's been there all the time. He said, "What do you have in the house?" You know what she said? The same thing you say, the same thing I said for decades. "Thine handmaid hath not anything in the house except whatever the thing is that comes after the except." That's the thing you're supposed to use. I don't know how to do anything but cook. You can't make any money cooking. Really. Shout out to Rachel Ray. She's a millionaire with an M. She turned the camera on cooking. My brother Derek. I got to tell you, this guy gets more joy out of cooking and talking about food than anybody I've ever seen. Oh no. He cooks and he doesn't, but when he makes something, he's not content to make it. He has to tell you what he made, why he made it, how he made it, every step in the process of what he did. And even if you don't care, you're going to enjoy watching him talk about it. What I told him, I said, "Bro, if you start a YouTube channel where you make food and describe the food like you do when you're talking to us, you will have millions of subscribers, millions." Anyway, the thing that God put inside of you is valuable, but you're calling it nothing. You're calling it nothing but. You're calling it nothing except. You're saying, all I know how to do is X. I'm only good at Y. You miss the point. The reason God made you bad at what you are bad at is so you don't get distracted by focusing on something that's not what you're good at. I had polio as an infant. It's one of the best things that ever happened to me in my life. It was also one of the worst things that ever happened to me in my life. It could have killed me, but it didn't kill me. It just killed the nerves in my spine that control my left leg. And my left leg didn't develop as fast as the rest of me. And I walk with a brace on my leg. And when at night, when I'm at home and I'm in my robe, in my pajamas, I don't walk with a brace. I walk with crutches. And that is just so bad. I feel sorry for the baby. Don't feel sorry for me. I'm a height. You're going to have to worry about somebody, but it ain't going to be me. And as a child, I hated the fact that I couldn't run. I'm very competitive. I'm not now, but I was when I was a child. I was very competitive. I'm not competitive at all now, because now I realize I have no competition. But when I was a child, I was competitive. Oh, you don't have any competition either? Don't be confused about it. Don't let that hit you the wrong way. Like, I don't have any competition, but neither do you. You are the one and only. There's nobody else who's ever existed on planet Earth who can fulfill your assignment. How could you possibly have competition? But you see, the difference between you and me is I own the fact that I don't have any competition. You can own it. You can own the fact that you don't have any if you will. Anyway, that's a different conversation for another day. And so, but I didn't hate the fact that my brothers could run. My brother, Jeff, was so athletic and talented. It didn't matter what sport he played, he was great at it. My brother Mike did so great in school. Like, clearly, he was smarter than the rest of us. Rob could draw, but all of them could run. We played basketball. And we play basketball like half-court basketball, and we just play. And I played basketball, but I wasn't good at it. We played sandlot football, flag, football. Some of the people running with sandlot football, you got to come to Florida. If you got to be a Fidian to know about sand football, right? And I'll knock a person down now. I play football, but I couldn't run. I wasn't going to run the ball. I'll play defense. I'll play tackle. I'll knock you behind on the ground. Like, I'd play baseball, but somebody'd have to run for me. And I hated that. If we played kickball on the playground, I always got chosen last. I hated that. But I realized as an adult that it's one of the greatest gifts God ever ordained for me to receive. Because what Satan used as oppression and affliction in my body, God used as a gift. Why? God ordained in his sovereign wisdom before the foundation of the world that my body would be slowed down so my mind could speed up. I'm so grateful for that. So you have a gift that you're undervaluing. How do I know? Because I undervalued mine. And I wanted the gifts that other people had. But when I was a child, what does the scripture say? When I became a man, I put away childless things. What else does it say? They that compare themselves among themselves, measuring themselves by themselves, are not wise. I don't have to compare myself to you. You don't have to compare yourself to me. Why? I don't have your side, but you don't have mine. I can celebrate you. You can celebrate me. And neither one of us has to be jealous of each other. Wow. How cool is that? My so-and-so's channel is bigger than yours. I know they've been doing it longer or they're better at it. Either way, I'm okay, and I'll watch their channel till the cows come home if it's something that interests me. Why? I'm not in a race with them. I have one assignment: be the best version of myself. Whatsoever my hand finder to do it with my might. Why? Because I'm going to die. So I got to do it while I'm alive. Because there's no work. There's no device. There's no service. There's none of that in the grave where I'm going. So I got to get it done while I'm alive. And if all I do is prepare to prepare and get ready to get ready. And I don't ever get into the game because I think I can't win the game. I've already lost the game because the only thing I have to do to win the game is get in the game and play the game. I've already won. This is so good. So what is the thing that separates all of those greats? And when I say they're great, the fact that they're great doesn't necessarily mean they're good people. You may consider some of those people I name not to be good people. I mean, Alexander the Great wasn't a good dude, but he was Alexander. He wasn't Alexander the mediocre. He wasn't Alexander the also. He wasn't another dude named Alexander. He was Alexander the Great, not Alexander a Great. Why? Because he owns his identity, and he added to his identity a level of intentionality that most people are unwilling to discipline themselves to do. So I'm going to show you the formula for how to be like the best of the best in the thing you were put here to do. Like nobody else can compete with you. Here's what's sad. You can become the best version of yourself, and you just become a version of yourself. Why would you settle for that? Why? Oh, because you don't know how great you are. Well, let's fix that, or at least get started on it. So we're going to look at B, do have. This is so cool. And actually, you know what we're going to do? Let's do it backwards. Let's do it the other way. Let's do be, and then we'll do. Then we'll do have. Now, we're not doing it the same way we've done it in the past. And there's a reason I'm doing it this way. Okay. Be, do, have, this is the formula for success. This is the ascension to being the best. Be speaks to my identity. One of the biggest problems you face in your life is you don't know who you are. It's one of the biggest problems you face. Do you understand? You will never behave in a way that's inconsistent with how you perceive your identity. So that's why you have to be hyper intentional about where you get your identity from. Most people get their identity from lie-identity. What is lie-identity? Lie-identity is your notness. Your what? Your notness. You say notness is not a word. It wasn't until I just said it. It's one. What is notness? Notness is all the things that all the people all your life told you and showed you you are not. You're not good enough. You're not smart enough. You're not tall enough. You're not pretty enough. You're not handsome enough. You're not strong enough. You're not educated enough. Who you are is not enough. Is your identity. And man, you thought they could see you. The reason they gave you an identity because they can't even see themselves. How could you expect them to see you? They gave you an identity because they felt so insecure. They had to make you feel smaller in order for them to feel bigger. Do you know why children make fun of other children? Because the children who are making fun feel insecure. And they think that making somebody else feel worse will make them feel better. But it doesn't work for this. Like God didn't he didn't just skip steps when he made you well, I'm not going to give them everything they need for their assignment. So what most people do is they will attempt to overcome their lie identity with what I call a my identity. What's a my identity? My identity is a fake identity that you make up that's better than the lie identity, but it's still not your identity. This is so powerful when you get it. So you go through life attempting to prove to people that you're better than they told you you're not. So you're the foundation of your my identity is the identity. Your identity is born out of your identity. So what do I need to do? You need to trash the identity. Stop believing that who you are, like that who you're not, is more important than who you are. Stop believing that. Stop buying that lie. Stop making up some fake identity to prove, putting fake posts on fake social media profiles so you can be as fake as everybody else on the platform. Just be who you are and trust that who you are is more than enough for you to be able to do more than enough for you to be able to have more than enough. Now, where am I going to get my identity from? The only place you can get your true identity from is from the ultimate identity, which is who? God. The I am that I am, that's such a fascinating and power, those two words there. I don't know that there are two words in the English language that are more powerful than I am, which is why it's absolutely imperative to never insert an identity after I am. I am so stupid. I am not good enough. I am not rich enough. I am poor. I am weak. I am sick. What are you doing? What you're doing is, if you think about I am it's a very present identity. In fact, what does it say in Psalm 46? Psalm 46 says, the Lord is our refuge and our strength. A very what? Present help in trouble. Therefore, will not we fear though the earth be removed? Present help. Well, it's hard for us as human beings to experience present. Why? Because as soon as I say now, it becomes then. Now then, now then. You can't say now fast enough for it to remain now. So as human beings, it's very difficult for us to experience in the realm of time anything other than the past or the future unless we're praying or meditating on the Word of God. Why? Because what we're doing is we're unplugging from the now, and we're getting plugged into the forever now. Because think about I am as an identity. I am means that I'm not I was, it means that I'm not I will be. It means that I am, and I'm not just I am that I am what I am. I am that I am who is mighty, who is powerful, who is love, who is omnipotent, omnipresent, omniscient. I am that I am. So if you get your identity from him, from I am that I am, then you know who you are. When you know who you are, you don't have to prove it. You can just walk in it. I'm telling you, real freedom is I have nothing to lose. I have nothing to gain. I have nothing to hide. I have nothing to prove. Thank you for remembering what I said, because I couldn't remember. I got some help from the front row, right? And so that's freedom. That's when you know who you are. You're no longer attempting to be better than somebody else or better than somebody else told you. You're not. You're just being who you are and letting that be enough. How do you do that? It's okay. Can I give you permission to do something that God already gave you permission to do? Can I tell you something? I'm not even going to give you permission. Can I tell you something God gave you permission to do when he made you? He gave you permission to be yourself and be okay with it. Stop attempting to be a version of yourself that deletes your identity. It doesn't matter. It literally doesn't matter. If you are intentional, you will be misunderstood. Period. And you have to be okay with being misunderstood. I know I'm misunderstood. I've been called so many things. I've been called a false prophet, prosperity gospel preacher. I've been called the Antichrist. Me, the Antichrist, on more than one occasion. Oh yeah. Kind of artist scam clause. I've been called a lot of, but you know what? I don't even have time to respond. I don't have time to care. You can literally believe whatever about me. You go and you're going to do that anyway. So I might as well own my identity. I might as well operate like I am who God says I am, and I know it instead of pretending that I need to overcome somebody else's delusion. I'm telling you, when you get this part down, identity is fire. Now here's what's really cool. We've been told our whole lives, if the thing you're working on isn't working, try harder. That sounds good until you realize what it really means. You take the thing that you're doing that's not working and put more intensity in it, more intentionality in it. Why would I do that? Like, do more of what's already proven not to be working. I mean, that sounds like it might be feasible, but till you think about it, then it's like, well, that ain't too smart, and I'm not dumb, so I don't think I'm going to do that. Can I give you a scientific formula for improvement? Like total radical transformation. Here it is. If you don't like the output, change the input. Why? Because inputs create outputs. If you don't like the output, change the input. Now, here's what's cool. Identity, like being, is the input for doing. People say, well, do you want to be successful? Do more X, Y, Z. Can I tell you something? It may be a little bit disheartening, but sometimes I do that. I don't hate to be the bear. I don't like to be the bearer of bad news, but somebody's got to bring it. So everybody is already doing 100% of everything they can do, who they are right now. Don't leave off that last part. Everybody is already doing 100% of everything they can do, who they are right now. What does that mean? That means you will never be able to do more than you are. You will never be able to build more than you've become. Never. Why? Because being is the input for doing. So if you want to increase your doingness, you must increase your beingness. This is so much more powerful than you know. Like, most people go through life totally unaware of who they are. Now, being speaks to my identity, but doing speaks to my activity. Doing speaks to my activity. So I don't have to make myself do activity. I have to make myself become the person who the activity already comes out of. Like, certain activities are to come out of who you are. In fact, all your activities are going to come out of who you are. So if I focus on filling the gap in my identity, which I'm going to talk about a little bit more later in this video, then I will start doing different activity, and then at identity, just like B is the input for activity. For activity is the input for oops, I shouldn't, for property is what we being, is who oops, I shouldn't, we being is who I am. Activity is what I do. Property is what I have. Identity is the input for activity. Activity is the input for property. Now, I'm going to tell you how God made us. It's going to blow your mind. Maybe it blew my mind when I saw it. God made us as human beings with an intense desire to have more property, to have better property. Your desire to have a bank account filled with money, and your desire to have nice clothes and a nice car and live in a nice house in a nice neighborhood and to take great vacations is a gift from God. If you don't believe me, go read Ecclesiastes. It's a gift from God. God gave you that gift. God gave you the desire to have more stuff so you would yield to doing the things you have to do in order to have it. And then he gave you the desire to do more so you could bump your head on your insufficiency and stub your toe on your inability and become frustrated enough in the fact that you can't do it until you become more. And then you focus on the thing that he cares about most, which is you becoming more than you've been being. Do you see how this works? This is so beautiful. So, like I said, it's the gift from God. People don't think of their desire to have as being a gift from God. We think of our desire to have as a temptation from Satan. We think it's a temptation from the enemy because the word lust is not always used in a negative term. In fact, the scripture says, the spirit lusts against the flesh and the flesh against the spirit. What does that mean? The word lust means desire. Now, if you're desiring, here's what makes lust bad. When you're desiring to have something, but you're unwilling to do the right thing to have it, that's what turns lust into something evil. A desire is evil when you desire to have the outcome, but you're unwilling to do the input. Now, so as we look at our concept of be, do, have identity, activity, and property, there is a gap in each of these. And the gap is our potential. And so that gap kind of looks like this. If this were our potential, these little circles are our potential. And this is where maxed out being all we can be. This is where minimized out. We're being nothing we can be. So we got our minimum potential, our maximum potential, our maximum potential, our minimum potential in be, do, and have. And most of us, when it comes to our beingness, we are, where most of us are right here, and we feel like we're right here. Right? So there's a big gap between where we are and where we think we are. And there's definitely a big gap between where we are and where we could be. By the way, there is no eliminating that gap, because what happens is as you fill in the gap, your capacity gets bigger. So that's why that's why personal development is perpetual, never-ending growth, because you can always be becoming, but you can never become. Does that make sense? You can always be becoming, but you can never become. What does that mean? That means you can never become there because there's no there. The journey itself is the destination. You can always be like, there's always room for growth. That's what I'm saying. There's always room for growth. And so the question is, if there's a gap in my identity, and in other words, there's a difference between who I think I am and who God knows I am. The question then becomes, how do I fill that gap? How do I fill the gap in my identity? And the way I fill my gap, the gap in my identity, is through a concept I call intentionality. Intentionality. What's intentionality? It's I am producing with a purpose, right? I'm moving with meaning. Like I'm acting out of awareness. I'm not just doing something. I'm not doing the next thing that comes up. I'm not a squirrel, right? And suddenly he ran off in every direction at the same time. No, I have to become hyper-intentional. I believe that the number one discriminating factor between people who succeed and people who fail, like the distinction, that's a better word than discriminating factor. The number one distinction between people who succeed and people who fail. People who succeed in any arena of life. It doesn't matter if it's sports. It doesn't matter if it's medicine, if it's science, if it's math, if it's education, if it's speaking, if it's singing. It doesn't matter. Business. The number one distinction between people who live on the struggle bus, like they've turned the struggle bus into a motor home, and people who succeed in a way that seems effortless to those who are outside looking in, is people who succeed. And by the way, let me give you a definition of success. I discovered God's purpose for my life. I develop myself for that purpose, and I deploy myself in that purpose. people who succeed hyperfocus on intention and ignore distraction like it doesn't exist. But people who live on the struggle bus, they hyperfocus on distraction and ignore intention. Most of the things people who live on the struggle bus focused on most of the time are things that do not move the needle in their favor. So let me define intention and distraction. Intention is anything that I focus on that moves the needle in my favor, that moves the needle in the favor of my purpose, that moves the needle in the favor of my productivity, that moves the needle in the favor of my personal development, that moves the needle in the favor of my profit. Anything that I focus on that moves the needle in my favor, that is intention. Anything that I focus on that does not move the needle in my favor is a distraction. Now, we all have some distraction. Sometimes we have to take seasons where we decompress, right? And what usually happens is we're focused on something different that doesn't matter as much. It's so interesting to me that the Bible says that bodily exercise profiteth little. It doesn't say it profit nothing. Body exercise profiteth little. I'm not going to take care of my body because bodily exercise only profit little. It profiteth little, but it doesn't mean it doesn't profit. And by the way, it gives you the energy physically. It gives you the energy and physical bandwidth to do all the other things that are important, that are more important. Okay, cool. Y'all are with me. So I fill the gap with intentionality. The more intentional I become about becoming more than I've been being, what does becoming more mean? It actually means becoming more like the God whose image you're made in. That's really what it means. That's what becoming more actually means. I'm becoming more like God. In fact, if you look at the Hebrew word for man, and when I say the Hebrew word for man, I mean the word Adam, which speaks about men and women, right? Olive, Dald Mem. The letter olive represents God. The letters don't spell the word blood. We know the life of the flesh is in the blood. So we're looking at flesh and blood, right? So what I'm doing when I'm becoming more is I'm making sure the flesh and blood part of me is yielded to the God part of me. And I make sure that the flesh and blood part of me is moving in more in this direction than having the God part of me move in that direction, becoming, in fact, one of the words, like so Hebrew words don't have vowels. So that word could be Adam, it could be Adma, it could be Adam, like depending on the accents that you put under those letters, right? And so the word Adam means I will compare myself or I will become like, and the purpose of being a human is to be becoming more like God. Okay, so all of my activity, here's the thing. If I resolve that I want to have this so much that I am willing to do more of this right here. If I put more energy in this right here and nothing changes, it's because I've ignored this down here. Are y'all tracking? And so what happens is your attempts to do more without becoming more oops, without becoming more equals frustration. It equals confusion. Like people who live a life of frustration, confusion, it makes you start flopping all the time. Okay, I tried that, it didn't work. I tried this, it didn't work. I tried that, didn't try that. The reason this happens is because you think that the way you fix doing is by doing something different. But the way you fix your doingness, like the things you know you ought to be doing, but you're not doing, the way you fix that is not by forcing yourself to do them. It's by becoming the person who that's what they do. Y'all tracking? Yes. And I'm going to cover that in a minute if y'all let me. Can y'all listen a little faster? Okay. So we'll increase the right through intentionality to not only my ability to become more. What happens is I fill in this gap, but there's still a gap here, and the gap here is still pretty big until I start taking action. But when I start taking action, I set an intention to start acting on some new activity. And that's what happens. What's the first thing that I should start acting on? I take that new action. There's like working on ask a component of your action. It's like David wasn't worried about Goliath because he was anointed to be the king, but he was still a shepherd. So he knew he had not yet fulfilled his destiny. He knew Goliath couldn't hurt him because his purpose had not yet been fulfilled. Are y'all tracking? And so Joseph had the perspective that the things his brothers did to him, the things Piper's wife did to him, the fact that he was in prison, what you meant for evil, God meant for good, right? That was a part of his becomingness. All that was part of his becomingness. But what happens? We fill the gap in our activity through a concept that's called ingenuity. What's ingenuity? I keep on refining my approach. Every time I do something and it doesn't work for me, it works on me. When it's working on me, here's what's saying, what the things that are working on me are saying, my change your approach. Now you know what people ask me all the time, like Myron, you talk about how the fact that you went 18 months without making a sale when you first got started in sales, and then all of a sudden, when you made your first sale, within months, you became the top salesperson in your office month after month after month after month after month. What happened? What was the difference? Well, the difference was I ran out of all the ways that wouldn't work to make a sale. All I had left were ways that would. And see, most people don't go through enough iterations of anything to discover the thing that would work. They attempt this thing, that thing, and they say, well, that didn't work. I think I'll go become somebody different and do something else. Wrong answer. But we do have some nice consolation prizes for you in the back. Actually, we don't. And then lastly, as I'm becoming more and then I increase my capacity and I begin doing more, there's still a gap in my property. Oh. And if I don't know if you have, I'm sure you do. You know how you think about multiple things at the same time that are going in the same direction. Does that concept make sense? Okay. So what happens is, like, when you start working on your becomingness gets momentum, right? But your activity has either inertia or negative momentum. And your property, because you've been like living in lack for so long, and that's not me condescending. I lived in lack for a very long time unnecessarily. So I either had inertia or I had negative momentum. And so what happens if you have inertia? In other words, you're not doing terrible, but you're not getting any better. You have inertia. An object at rest will remain at rest unless it's acted upon by an outside force, right? But if your life is getting worse, incrementally or exponentially, you have negative momentum. And so the outside force that impacts your activity is your beingness. Your you becoming the person is the force. You're going this way. This is going this way or standing still. When this hits this, it doesn't move it a lot initially. Just moves it a little. And you have to keep on attempting a new approach with ingenuity. And then all of a sudden, you got momentum in your identity and you got momentum in your activity. And eventually, I like what my good friend Kenny Grant says. What does he say? I'm going to tell you something. Eventually, he's undefeated, right? So eventually what happens is your act, your property changes directions. And once when you have like a gap in your property and you say, okay, I'd like this property to increase, you do that through intensity. Like this is how to be the best of the best. This is how you become the best. This is how you become the best. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be a sport. It could be business. It could be singing. It could be musical instruments. It could be languages. It could be whatever. This is how you become the best. There are very few people in the world who have decided, I am going to be the best who ever played this game. I don't want to be the best so I can be better than other people. I want to be best. I want to be the best so I can be better than I've ever been perpetually. That's the point. And if we will apply these principles to our lives, we can be the best of the best. I hope that video helps you. Stay blessed by the best and utilize this by becoming more than you've been being. Thanks for watching.